So good to see you all. I hope that we have a great conversation today. I really do. I want to start off today by saying we won't just go over all the sad news. We'll have some fun popular culture news today as well, just to keep things light for everyone. Um, so once we've got viewers online, I'll be ready to get started for everybody. As always, the comments are open through YouTube, Periscope, and my personal Facebook profile. So if you'd like to ask a question, air a concern, give input on what we're discussing, that is an option. We're also doing a call-in feature where you can call in and I can, it'll ask you for your name, and when you tell the system your name, say, hey, this is my name and this is what I want to talk about, and it'll let you through, and I'll be able to put you on speaker and you can join the podcast live, which is pretty cool. New functionality that we're deploying, or that we've had deployed. So whoever calls first today will be the first person ever to use it, and so I'm really excited to see who that'll be. So let's see. In big news, the Senate finally agreed on the stimulus bill. It's at least $2 trillion. This is on top of the Federal Reserve lending $1 trillion a day to large banks starting March 20th and not ending for at least a month. Or at least through the end of this month, I'm sorry. So clearly the government has the money to do just about anything. It's a matter of political will, not a matter of how do we pay for it. So, where was I? I'm so sorry. I want us all to be very careful because the coronavirus alarm does mix two types of phobias. It mixes the red scare with the so-called yellow peril, and it leaves us at risk for compounding our country's. Our country wants us to be prejudiced against leftism, compounding that with xenophobia. And I'll be right back. So stay online, everybody. Share this with your friends, your family, so we can get more viewers. All right? Because I want to have a hearty conversation, and I will be back in roughly 60 seconds. Hey, look at that, I'm back! Like I promised. I didn't abandon y'all. Why would I do that? Especially when it's my live stream, right? So in other big news, U.S. has overtaken China and Italy and now leads the world in the most known coronavirus cases, which is a problem. So, and that's known cases. When we were, and I believe still are, the lowest or one of the lowest per capita on, what's the word I'm looking for? Testing. So we've overtaken the world in cases, and we're one of the lowest tested nations out there, if not the lowest still. So I'm just waiting for comments. Because I want to have a hearty conversation today. And again, you can call in, you can comment via YouTube chat, via the comments on my Facebook Live, via Periscope if you're watching on Twitter. Any of those, and I will see them and be happy to respond to them. So, yeah, pretty much. We just do one thing here. Alright, we're moving on to the next headline. It's again about the stimulus bill, but this is a quote, not a headline, I should say, from Marianne Williamson, who had run for the Democratic presidential nomination this cycle. She's an author and a real psychedelic person. I forget what else she does, but that's a really good way to describe her. And so, quote, "The stimulus bill that passed tonight gives $500 billion to companies, dispersal to be directed by Trump and Mnuchin, and only $100 billion to hospitals. It does nothing in terms of building the medical supply chain or helping or training doctors or nurses. It gives a much needed $1,200 one-time payment to many, but it's worth noting that Canada's bill gives the equivalent of $1,400 a month for as long as the crisis lasts. I want to be positive and uplifting, but the truth is sobering. The U.S. government is telling tens of thousands of Americans to basically drop dead." End quote. Again, that was Marianne Williamson, and she couldn't be more correct. She really couldn't. That's just what's happening. They're trying to get us to go back to work when the only way, in Utah at least, the only way to flatten the curve enough to have a minimal number of deaths, which is about 1,000 people dead, is a shelter-in-place order for 3 months, which is why we've been running a call to action for 3 or 4 days now, asking people to demand that Governor Herbert issue a shelter-in-place order tied to durable and financial aid for Utahns. Not just citizens, but all Utahns. The stimulus bill is interesting. There were beefed up unemployment benefits courtesy of the Amendment King Bernie Sanders. The reason he withheld his vote to stop it from passing was to negotiate for more, and he successfully got an amendment in there. People who are unemployed will get an extra $600 per week for 4 months on top of state employment benefits to make up for 100% of lost wages. And that's an extra month on that final agreement compared to what Republicans wanted. Again, the Treasury Department, Trump and Mnuchin are able to divvy up $500 billion to struggling industries. Now, the good news is rules were added to that bill to order an inspector general and an accountability committee to oversee how the money is spent, rather than giving sole power to Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. Veterans of the 2008 bank bailout have been stating that the efficacy of that oversight, that watchdog, if you will only be as strong as those chosen to be watchdogs, and how much power they're really given. All U.S. residents with an adjusted gross income up to $75,000, $150,000 for married couples will get $1,200 once, $2,400 for couples, a rebate payment. Also eligible for an additional $500 per child. They're means tested, so earners above those income thresholds start getting smaller until you hit $99,000 for a single, $146,500 for head of household with one child, and $198,000 for joint fathers with no children. So you have to pay taxes. You have to have paid taxes in the past to get this, and it's a early version of your tax refund for 2020. That's all it is it's giving people, it's giving the American people a little bit of their projected tax refund early. So it's going to come out of your tax refund next year. It's not and it's means tested. It's it's better than nothing, but it's not really enough. It's nowhere near enough. And it's just it's supposed to be a bribe to keep us quiet, basically. And so people who aren't paying taxes or don't pay taxes due to their incomes will be very hard to get. It'll be very hard for them to get assistance because of the way this is so terribly mean tested. Hospitals got $100 billion in grants, which is good. No, AOC actually clarified on that, Katie. It's citizens and residents with social security numbers, certain visas and undocumented workers, and other, so not all social security numbers are eligible. In fact, let me pull up AOC's thread on it so I can give you that clarification, because no, it's the wording in the bill is residents, but what it really means is citizens. That's the effective meaning, if that makes sense, Katie. Give me just a second to pull it up. Okay, so $1,200 checks are only going to some with social security numbers, not immigrants with tax IDs. Thanks to the GOP, these checks will be cut off the backs of tax-paying immigrants who get nothing. Many are essential workers who pay more taxes than Amazon, while Wall Street gets $4 trillion. What I just said was paraphrasing AOC's tweet from 6 hours ago to answer your question. So some immigrants with social security numbers will get it, but most won't. And if they have ITINs, they won't get any help. So undocumented workers won't get any help, and those are the ones who are most likely to be disproportionately in our essential industries right now, needing the most help. That $500 billion in the current bill will be leveraged into $4 trillion, according to AOC. And they basically, Trump and the Senate GOP held working people in hospitals and durable aid hostage to get the corporate bailout they want. That was the compromise that was struck. And, you know, maybe not most, but a disproportionate number of undocumented workers and immigrants are migrant or non-migrant farm workers. And these farm workers are feeding us right now. And our government refuses to help them because they don't have a certain kind of paperwork. It's disgusting. It's immoral. And it's just plain wrong. And this virus spreads to everyone, so everyone needs help. If there was any case for universality, the coronavirus is it. So that's the clarification, Katie, if that helps. Three powerful lobbyist groups that claim to represent physicians, hospitals, and nurses had demanded exactly $100 billion, and that's the amount they got. So if they're actually representing what nurses, hospitals, and doctors need, that's good. But I have a feeling they're going to need a lot more than $100 billion. So in lighter news, Blake Shelton was showing off his coronavirus quarantine mullet, and he decided to add what he called stripes to it. So yeah, I will show you guys the video here in a moment. Let me just get it pulled up. You'll want to see a video of Blake Shelton. I know you do. Well, you can suffer through 1 second of video. Ready? Ew, it's just, it's terrible! It's terrible! Okay, get off my screen, get off my screen! Ah! Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry, everybody, for making you suffer. That was terrible. Wasn't it? Wasn't that just terrible? There's 35 plus organizations, and I'm gonna go over at least a few of them, helping restaurants, workers, and farmers survive COVID-19. So there's Alone, which is Ireland, which is an Irish organization that recruits volunteers to call, visit, and befriend elderly people living at home. They're looking for more volunteers to offer telephone support and practical support by running errands like grocery shopping and pharmacy pickups. So if anyone watching this is in Ireland or knows anyone in Ireland, supporting Alone Ireland is a great way to volunteer and help, and people around the world can donate. Boston Cares helps more than 25,000 people annually give back to schools, community programs, and other nonprofit agencies. They help mobilize and train volunteers across the greater Boston area. They offer virtual volunteer and orientation and are looking for volunteers to help the community. California Food Policy Advocates. I hope so too, Grace, but that's exactly not what's happening. We can go back over that for you if you'd like, if you missed the summary of the assistance stimulus. It's very means tested. It doesn't help everyone, and it certainly hurts immigrants the worst. California Food Policy Advocates help low-income people across the state of California access healthy food. They helped implement national COVID-19 response programs in California, including those enacted by the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. They're using their newsletter as a way to keep the community informed about advocacy, opportunities, and policy responses to the coronavirus. And you can also donate to them. I'm going to put a link in the chat that has these 31 organizations, so that shows up for people. And that might be a good way to, if you have the funds, you can donate to any of those organizations. You can also donate to us. We are doing a pledge right now, a fundraising drive, if you will. And we're guaranteeing that the next $750 Wolf of Light News raises will go directly to direct manufacturing of masks. We will 3D print. I know how to 3D print and design masks. We will get the materials and filament and sanitization equipment, and we will 3D print masks for medical providers in Utah. And if we don't raise enough to get the equipment to manufacture them ourselves, which will be far cheaper per mask, we will use the funds to find a way to purchase masks and donate them. So if you donate to us right now, your funds normally would help keep us alive, but right now they're helping keeping medical workers alive. We're doing a donation drive to manufacture masks via rapid prototyping, or 3D printing as it's colloquially known. So all U.S. residents supposedly get it, but some Social Security numbers are exempted and ITINs are exempted, so it's not really all U.S. residents. It's like citizens and then some non-citizens, to answer Grace and Katie's concerns in terms of the cash stimulus for working people and Americans in general. And it also disproportionately hurts working people because they have working class has lower income, and it's means tested in a way that's really hard for lower income people to access these cash payments. In other funny news, take from this what you will. If you Google the average cost to build a guillotine, and you Google your stimulus check amount, you'll find that the two, I'm not advocating for anything, I just think it's funny. The two costs are identical. The stimulus check covers the cost of a homemade guillotine, interestingly enough. So, yeah. Isn't that interesting? let's move on. Let's see here. I'm going to briefly cover this again today for those who didn't watch. Yesterday, Joe Biden has been credibly accused of sexual assault, really of rape, and mainstream media is refusing to cover it. A women's advocacy organization called Time's Up has refused to help the woman who came out with her story first in 1993 or 1997. I think it was 93, I'm sorry. When it happened, she came out, no one believed her. Now, when she came out again, she tried to come out in 2019, she was refused help and was told it would threaten, their nonprofit status, but really that nonprofit, Time's Up, they have a PR firm whose manager is a Biden advisor. So they had a conflict of interest with Biden the whole time, and that's why they're refusing to do anything. Her name is Tara Reid. The only mainstream media that's so far aired her, and this is a today update, is The Hills Rising webcast has given her airtime, but no one else has. And you're absolutely right, Grace. Biden is no different than Trump. In fact, I'd argue that if it weren't for the cognitive decline, Biden would be single-handedly worse than Trump for a couple of reasons. First of all, he's engineered and defended and advocated for racist, fascist, careerist, corporatist, and ecocidal policies, just like Trump, for decades, and actually invented some of them, like what he calls the Biden crime bill. The crime bill? Biden calls it the Biden crime bill because he wrote it. Biden introduced the first ever federal legislation to allow the death penalty after it was deemed constitutional, and he's very proud of that. He's on C-SPAN, congressional record, saying how proud he is of that. So he's not only a person that is functionally the same as Trump, but if it weren't for the cognitive decline, he'd be an effective Trump. So think about how terrible Trump is when he's incompetent. Now, someone who's politically the same, with no AstroTurf resistance campaign, and actually knows how to use our system and is actually competent, that is so much more dangerous. So, it's a call to action. Please, everyone, call your senators and congresspeople, I should say. Ask them to take the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden seriously. Ask them to call for an investigation, and ask them to condemn him. If lawmakers start to talk about it, the media can no longer ignore it. Joe Biden must be held accountable. The Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. Again, 202-224-3121. Please call your representatives and senators and demand that they take the sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden seriously and call for an investigation so the media will no longer cover up Tara Reid's story. Grace says he never was for the working class. I wonder what his supporters find appealing in him. Well, a big media supporter of him likes that the country can just take a break and go back to sleep if Biden's in office. So they're supporting him because they're craving some false normalcy from nostalgia for Obama, when Obama brought us into more active conflicts, bombed more people, and deported more people than any of his predecessors. Just to name a few of his many, many crimes. And Obama did some good things, but he did way more bad things. The ACA was a complete giveaway to the healthcare industry. It was supposed to be single-payer healthcare, and he didn't even try. He sold out the second on that, and my grandfather is likely dead because Obama sold out on healthcare. My grandfather would likely be alive today if we had universal healthcare 6 years ago. So, people are craving the normalcy under Obama, but the problem is that status quo of before Trump led to Trump. And if we try to preserve the new status quo, because the status quo is the status quo, it's what's happening now, the Trumpian status quo, it'll lead to an even worse Trump in 4 to 8 years. And blow up our only window to address the climate crisis. So Biden cannot become president because our world cannot survive a Biden presidency, and neither can it survive a Trump presidency. Also, it'll be really easy for Trump to run to Biden's left and steal enough support to win the election. So, in a landslide, I mean, like, it would be easy for Trump. He did it with Clinton. He'll do it again with Biden. He really will. So social distancing isn't enough. In Utah alone, last I checked, a 3-month shelter in place means 1,000 deaths. Social distancing for 3 months means 49,000 deaths. And limited action that's not social distancing, or is less than proper social distancing, means 65,000 projected deaths or more. So social distancing is not enough. We need shelter-in-place orders with durable financial and physical aid to all Americans, rather than forcing us to go back to work and kill ourselves for this stupid economy. Capitalism has always run on blood, and now the masks are off. GOPers have been calling for people to sacrifice themselves, claiming they'd be willing to do it too, even though they know that would never happen for them. They're claiming to sacrifice. They're saying Americans should do the patriotic thing to sacrifice themselves to this economy. The patriotic thing to do right now, everybody, is a general strike. A rent strike, a debt strike, and a general strike. That is the patriotic thing to do. In fact, most of the worker benefits we now enjoy, as limited as they are becoming without unions, came from the organized labor movement. And the family, the Christian secret organization that's hijacking our government and turning it even more theocratic, the original group that became the family was founded in, I think, Seattle in response to the organized labor movement. So the patriotic thing to do, everybody, is to join the organized labor movement and join the rent strike movement. Grace says, I just talked to a lady who's pro-Trump and thinks that we should not worry about COVID-19 because God will take care of everything. Shaking my head. Okay, I personally believe in God as well, and God's all about free will and consequences. So yes, he can help, but he's not going to just... There's a reason this pandemic exists. God isn't just going to wipe it away. So yeah, that's utter inanity. Day before yesterday via Periscope says capitalists are the best people. I agree with you that capitalists are the best at oppressing us and stealing our surplus labor and making us think it's freedom. Totally agree with you that they're the best at that. Let's see what's next. Next up on the docket is there is a neuroscientist who is currently studying the dynamics between pop culture and social interaction, and he actually recommends watching certain plague movies to better understand our own anxieties and better cope with the realities of now. His name is Eric Leonardis, and his field is emotion researcher. John Carpenter's The Thing of 1982 and Bruce McDonald's Pontypool, Pontypool of 2008 are both recommendations by Eric Leonardis. In other COVID-19 news, the Salt Lake International Airport has confirmed that a TSA agent who worked in Terminal 1 has tested positive for COVID-19. The last time that agent positive for COVID-19 worked was from 4 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in Terminal 1 of Salt Lake City International Airport. F9, the 9th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, No Time to Die, the live-action Mulan, Marvel's Black Widow, The Personal History of David Copperfield, Amy Adams, The Woman in the Window, Wonder Woman 1984. All of those are postponed or suspended to later launch date. AMC, Regal, Century Theaters, and Megaplex Theaters are all completely closed temporarily to preserve health and safety. Let's see what else we've got. I want to again reiterate that it's really important to remember that in times like these, when we're anxious, when we're afraid, when we feel unsafe, it's really easy to become more and more politically right-wing, too right-wing, and allow our fear to turn into ignorance, our ignorance into hate, and our hate into something worse. So we have to be very careful that we don't tacitly or explicitly participate in any xenophobia, which is prejudice against Chinese people in China, or xenophobia in general right now. We need to be very cognizant and of our own self-talk and of our own positions, and try to remember that we are all human, even harder than before, because when we are unsecure, our brains tend to go more towards the right wing, and left is best. So I'm going to go ahead and transition the screen again over to a video that was made by an anonymous group of Americans who asked it to be shared widely, and I agree that it should be shared widely, so I'm going to go ahead and transition over to that in 3, 2, 1.
The coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
And we only have 15 people and they're getting better.
I think we're doing a really good job in this country at keeping it down. Anybody that needs a test can have a test. And the tests are all perfect.
Has blindsided the world. I don't take responsibility at all.
And I'm going to let everybody watch that one more time.
The coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China.
One day it's like a miracle, it will disappear.
And we only have 15 people and they're getting better.
I think we're doing a really good job in this country at keeping it down. Anybody that needs a test can have a test. And the tests are all perfect.
Has blindsided the world. I don't take responsibility at all.
Powerful, no? Yeah, that was pretty powerful. And depressing. Remember, guys, I live on your comments, so please comment, share this, so I can see what you're thinking. I want a good, hearty conversation today. UF Health is upcycling masks to give Utahns proper protective gear. They're basically taking masks that aren't good enough and retrofitting them to be as close to good enough as possible. And I want everyone to remember, like I said earlier, the patriotic thing to do right now is a general strike, not dying for this stupid stock market. The stock market is the surplus value of your labor being stolen and siphoned upstream. It's not trickle down economics, it's siphon up economics. So problem. That was not surprising about Trump. He is a joke. Absolutely right, Grace. It was not surprising at all. It's not surprising at all. He's an incompetent buffoon. I like to call him the inky orange slime when I'm feeling less than decent about him, which is often. I want to discuss how the coronavirus is affecting third parties and affecting our electoral politics as well. Today I got an email from Brendan Phillips and someone else, the co-chairs of the Green Party's National Ballot Access Committee. And with the coronavirus and people having to self-quarantine and social distance, their ability to get ballot access is off the table now because they can't petition. They can't go out and petition. It's also hurting down ballot races and all over the nation because they have to go to full virtual campaigning. I even have seen someone who was going to run in 2020 for Congress, a true progressive, who couldn't simply because they are at high risk and they don't have the personal bandwidth to do all virtual campaigning. So this pandemic is affecting our liberties already. We have to be very careful that, yes, we need a shelter-in-place order of durable aid, but we have to be careful that the powers that be don't abuse the power necessary to, that they already have, but that they don't abuse it. But by trampling all our civil liberties even more than they've already been trampled. So ballot access is huge. For the Green Party, for example, if they can get ballot access in all 50 states and 5% of the vote, they suddenly get a bunch more funding, a bunch more legitimacy, and they're a bunch more viable and could actually challenge the DNC even to an even greater degree than just ideological. Which they also run races and win sometimes, which is amazing. So I don't mean to minimize the Green Party. In fact, the Green Party is amazing, and I've been recommending to everyone, rather than joining a new independent party, let's just join the Greens. I think that's the way to go. They already have ballot access in like half of the states. They're working on ballot access in the other half of the states. They have infrastructure. Let's just build it up instead of starting from scratch. That's my personal opinion on that. So, up next, I will remind everyone that uses unemployment benefits that the reason their unemployment benefits were beefed up is the man named Bernie Sanders. Sorry, everybody, had to get a drink. In the past 14 days, across the nation, there have been 28 TSA screening officers who have tested positive for COVID-19 and 10 non-screening employees with relatively limited interaction have tested positive over the same period. So screening employees are the ones that wand you down and, screen you, and at least 28 of them have the virus. So how many people have they given it to in their shifts? I don't even want to think about how many people they've given it to. Salt Lake City International Airport, Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, Boise International, Louise Armstrong, Newark Liberty, Nashville, John F. Kennedy International, Indianapolis International, John F. Kennedy International, Newark Liberty International, Atlanta, Hartsfield International, Orlando International, John F. Kennedy International again, John F. Kennedy International, Orlando International, John F. Kennedy International, Detroit Wayne County Airport, Newark Liberty International, Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport, LaGuardia Airport, Dulles International Airport, Cleveland Hopkins International, Cyril E. King International, Dulles International, JFK International again, and Newark Liberty International again. That is the list of employees that have tested positive by the airports they work at. So JFK has several employees, and so do a few other large airports, several employees that have tested positive, spread across several terminals and checkpoints. And airports in general, that's really not good because these are screening employees. It's not good that anyone gets it, but screening employees have tons of contact, close contact in the form of touch often with the general public. So this is actually really quite bad. Grace says Bernie Sanders is the most presidential among the three of them. I highly agree. In many ways, his campaign has already moved into being the most presidential. No, he's not president, but he's acting it. He's showing the world his ability to lead in real time more than he's ever been able to before. Katie says to the airport comments, so many possible points of infection. There's no way to begin to track who's been infected or exposed, and Katie is absolutely correct. There's absolutely no way to track. It's just going to be exponential and bad that the airports are, testing the screening officers in airports. It's going to be bad. That's a lot of potential infection. So Salt Lake City has been having earthquakes and aftershocks for the last week or so, but West Texas just got a 5.0 magnitude earthquake. As I've said before on the show, I am personally religious. I believe in God. I am a Christian socialist. I haven't said that part on the show, but there you go. I said it. So I don't like to bring it up a lot, but let's get biblical for just half a second, okay? There's a plague. There's earthquakes all over the place. There's locusts in freaking Africa. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. Take your own conclusions, or don't. If you think I'm crazy for being religious, you don't have to take your own conclusions for that. But, yeah. An ex-FBI agent was apparently murdered. Not murdered, I'm sorry, disappeared in 2007 in Iran while on an unsanctioned CIA intelligence gathering mission. And his family announced he's dead. The FBI director has credible evidence that he died, to believe he died in captivity, so that's interesting. Let's see what else. Unemployment claims have surged to their highest number ever, 3.3 million. I believe that's the highest number ever. Let me double check that. And stocks are still recovering despite the unemployment surge of 20% of their losses. Mitch McConnell is framing the stimulus package as not a stimulus package. He said, quote, "This is not even a stimulus package. It is emergency relief. Emergency relief, that is what this is." End quote. Joe Biden refuses to do an April debate with Bernie Sanders. And to that I say, I think the people of America overwhelmingly accept your implied resignation from the race, Joe. If you are refusing to debate, then you're refusing to fulfill the unity contract. If you're refusing to fulfill the unity contract, then you are ceding the race to Bernie. And now Bernie is the presumptive nominee. So thank you for that, Joe Biden, everybody. Give him a round of applause for refusing a debate and making Bernie Sanders the presumptive nominee. Travel bans are going to have a devastating impact on fruit and vegetables because they're halting visa interviews for seasonal farm workers. So farms and slaughterhouses are very likely going to face labor shortages. Because America uses a lot of Mexican people for our farm jobs and our slaughterhouse jobs that, native born white Americans never want to work. So we outsource them, or we insource them, and then we treat the immigrants terribly. We should treat them good, but we don't. Australia is possibly in a similar boat because 1/3 of their seasonal farming jobs are overseas workers. Kiwi fruit pickers are in short supply in New Zealand. And in Canada, meat processors are threatened because they also rely on temporary foreign workers to fill chronic labor shortages. So there won't be anyone to harvest crops across the world, which is more and more proof why we need an economy and government organized around the people and what the people need and sustainability, and not the most profit, but the most thriving, the most dignified lives for all people. Because capitalism, under even the slightest stress, is what becomes so much worse. It becomes what capitalists like to pretend socialism is. But all socialism is an economy and government organized around the needs of the many and making sure that everybody can have a dignified life and that there's democracy across life relative to the relative democracy. So it's not two wolves and a lamb voting on who's for dinner and the lamb being overpowered by the wolves. It's whoever is most impacted by the choices has the most to say in those choices. That's what true socialism is. And that would be across the board in all aspects of life, in addition to guaranteeing a dignified life to all humans and to the diversity of nature. So that would be what we're looking at, not some scary authoritarianism or anything like that. Please feel free to keep commenting. Call in if you'd like. My phone's right here. If you want proof, I have a phone that you can call in. I know it's old school, but here's the proof. You can call me right now. Join the podcast live. If anyone wants to, you'd be the first person ever on our podcast live besides me. Who wants to do it? Okay, nobody wants to do it. That's fine. We'll get the first person eventually. It's okay if you don't want to talk on the phone. I appreciate your comments, everybody. Grace said about 9 minutes ago, sorry I didn't acknowledge this comment already, Grace, that Green Party is the way to go. DNC is garbage. They not play by the rules. The local residential real estate market in Illinois has been delayed by COVID-19. Salt Lake City mayor has said that she will issue a stay-at-home order for the city if a statewide order isn't enacted. That's Erin Mendenhall. But guess what? Her and the county mayor, Jenny Wilson, released a flyer not even a week ago that says they don't have the power to issue a stay-at-home order, and now they're saying they're going to. So somebody's lying or about to abuse their power, or both. Summit County is the only region in Utah to mandate staying at home. Governor Gary Herbert has said he prefers not to see such measures issued on a statewide level, which means, in effect, Governor Gary Herbert prefers 48,000 more people die. Because the difference between 3 months of shelter in place and 3 months of social distancing is at least 48,000 deaths. So that makes Governor Herbert as mass social murderer. Again, the definition of social murder is when a politician or person in power or the system itself creates preventable deaths. I know, Katie, they said they can't do that, and now they're saying they're going to anyway. So either they lied or they're about to abuse their power, or both. Or both. Probably both, Katie. Sorry, I was just ruminating on how disgusting it is that they're saying they can't do that and then turning around and saying they will do that. Just be honest in the get-go. Say you don't want to, or whatever. In other local-ish news, Krispy Kreme is giving dozens of free donuts to healthcare workers every Monday. I agree, Katie, that's probably both on abuse of power and lying. A Utah baker is giving in South Jordan it's called let's see what the bakery's called because I want to give them full credit. Schmidt's Pastry Cottage is keeping their employers in work. And is giving away thousands of loaves of bread, free French bread. There's a catch. You can't take just one. It comes with a sticker that says, quote, "Customers, as a token of gratitude for your continued support this difficult time, we are gifting you 2 loaves of bread. One is for you to enjoy and one is for you to share. With keeping social distancing in mind, please share it with someone who will benefit from paying it forward. We are all in this together and our hope is to spread some comfort at this time," end quote. And again, that is Schmidt's Pastry Cottage, a local business in South Jordan, Utah, that's giving back and keeping their employees working. And the small business owner is appreciative to his employees and says he knows he can't do it without them and that they're a family. So that's really cool. A shelter in Utah called Best Friends Network. They have a sanctuary in southern Utah. They've created a website that I'll put in the chat with resources on how to keep your pets safe during COVID. Now, to be clear, my understanding is that dogs and cats cannot catch or transmit COVID-19, but in theory their fur could carry it, just like clothes could carry it. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. It's right there for everybody. I'm going to do a less lengthy version of the link without the tracking. There we go. For everybody to see there. You can see that on the screen now. Seeing what other comments we were getting in from people. No comments so far. We're getting close to the end of my usual. I usually do this for an hour unless the conversation's really hopping. So if you want to keep going, I'm happy to. But I need you guys to keep going. Ro Khanna, I believe he's a sitting representative and candidate for re-election. Obama, Kramer Salam, the original Justice Democrat, and last I knew, surrogate to Bernie's, or chair, some sort of co-chair to Bernie Sanders' campaign, is saying, just tweeted, quote, "How can we insist that members should fly into D.C. that is sheltering in place to push a button to vote? Congress can work remotely in emergencies. Katie Porter and Ayanna Presley should have the right to vote. Get into the 21st century or let the next generation lead," end quote. And to that I add the constituencies of our representatives, our national representatives who are sheltering in place or otherwise unable to make it physically to Congress, have a right to representation, and our representatives, like all American citizens, and have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So being forced on a plane that will likely threaten their lives because of a freaking pandemic isn't exactly, just to fulfill their constitutional oaths, isn't exactly preserving those rights. According to Fox in Salt Lake City, robots, two major hospitals in England are now using more robots in operating rooms. This system uses robotic arms to mimic the movements of surgeons who control it with joysticks while wearing 3D glasses connected to a monitor. So that's interesting. A lot of Utah couples and venues are grappling with how to plan weddings during coronavirus. And for my fellow Mormon or Mormon adjacent people, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints adjacent people, the church has closed all temples, effective, I think it's already effective, if not it's the end of this week. And like our stake centers and ward centers are closed down here in Utah, and I think that's church-wide as well. So yeah. Could the robots help with spread of COVID, less spreads of contact? I would assume so, Katie, but I'm not a doctor. But logic dictates that, yeah, that would help, because it's less points of human contact. A robot can't get infected in the middle of surgery, and it can't spread infection in the middle of surgery. So, yeah, that could help, I would think. Makes sense. Yeah. We just invite some people. So, if we're not going to have comments coming in, I'm going to go offline here in about 3 minutes, unless the conversation kicks up. So I want to give everyone that warning. I want to keep talking to y'all, but I don't want to be rambling to myself either. So please keep the conversation going by commenting or calling in. And whoever calls in first, you'll be our inaugural caller. That's an honor only one person will get. So don't waste it, but also feel free to try and claim it. And yes, I'm being silent. Sorry, everybody. I was just hoping for some comments. Come on, chime in. Give me some ammunition, everybody. Really? Y'all are putting the burden on me, aren't you? Aren't you? That's okay. Let's see what's next. What is next? I want to warn everybody again to try and stay away from pushing or thinking like xenophobic stuff right now. Yes, the coronavirus probably originated in China. No, that's not an excuse to be racist against Chinese people. Where is that Zach Brown Band concert? Katie, is that local? Or is it local to Utah or something else? Because if it's not canceled for tonight, that's really irresponsible of the venue and or the band and or both. Disregard everybody, according to Katie. Okay, so this is a report from Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. Quote, COVID plasma needed. Patients recently recovered from COVID-19 have high levels of immunity in the form of antibodies in their blood that can be transfused into very sick COVID-19 patients in our hospitals. This treatment is known as human convalescent plasma and has been used in previous pandemics. We are ready to start treating patients later this week, but we need your help. If you have recently recovered from COVID-19, please volunteer to have your blood tested to see if you have high levels of antibodies. If your antibody levels are high, we'll work with you to see if you're both willing to qualify to donate plasma at a nearby blood donation center. You could save a life if you can help. Please email us at covidserumtesting@mountsinai.org. I'm going to put that in the chat too. covidserumtesting@mountsinai.org. If you've recently recovered from COVID-19, you may be able to help the people that are still dealing with it recover faster and healthier. And that's just in from another. I just saw that report. So, Katie says the Zach Brown Band concert was canceled and it's at the Maverick Center, which I believe is local to Utah. So yeah. And of course, billionaires want us all back at work, and don't care if it kills us. They never have. The capitalist class never has. The oligarchs never have cared. All they care about is the money we generate for them. Dick Kovacevich, who ran Wells Fargo until 2007, since he wants healthy people under age 55 to return to work in April if the outbreak is contained enough. Quote, we'll gradually bring those people back and see what happens. Some of them will get sick. Some may even die. I don't know. Do you want to suffer more economically or take some risk that you'll get flu-like symptoms and a flu-like experience? Do you want to take an economic risk or a health risk? And you get to choose. End quote. That is a false choice, everybody. And I'm not the only one pointing that out. Ethicists and economists have been pointing this out. Okay? If we rush people back to work, we prolong the outbreak. We drain the hospital system. We add to the death count from the virus. And we add more disaster for the economy. Because we, the workers, are the economy. So when we die off in droves, the economy suffers. The economy suffers. So do not fall for that rhetoric. Join a strike, everybody. And if you're privileged enough like me to work from home, then you should, if you can, work from home still and use your resources to help keep those on strike afloat. All right, thank you everybody so much for your comments, for your time. Please follow us on Twitter at Socialist Phelan and at Wolf of Light News. Please follow us on YouTube, that's Wolf of Light News. You can friend me on Facebook, fb.me/Phelan.Atchison. And please go to wolflightnews.com. Remember, anything you donate to us right now does go to direct aid in the form of we will be purchasing the materials necessary to what's the word I'm looking for? Manufacture masks for our medical workers. That's wolfoflightnews.com/donate. If we don't raise enough to manufacture them at a far cheaper rate per mask, we will start purchasing them and still donate them with your donations. So please donate to our program, and that will go to medical workers right now. And join a strike, everybody. Join the rent strike, the debt strike, and the general strike when it comes to your area. Thank you all for watching, and have a great night.